Let's bring in our first guest. We have got we can't even say friend of the program. This is an actual good friend of mine. We've got the one and only Shakeia Taylor. If you do not know who this person is, you have been living under a rock. She is the deputy senior content editor at the Chicago Tribune. You can follow her at Curly Fro on Twitter. Get in tune with everything she goes about, man. She goes from basketball coverage, specializes in baseball, football. If you are a Michigan fan, turn this off right now because she's full Ohio State all day, every day.
It's not a bad.
So, Shakeia, it is great to have you on the show. I haven't had you on here in a couple years, but I'm glad to have you on, even though I hit you up super last minute. But how are you feeling today?
I'm good. It's always nice to be invited back after a couple years.
Well, it definitely good.
Couple of years.
I mean, it's years.
It's been a couple years. This was before I brought y'all niggas on here.
Bang. He was like, I know all these other people.
I was on the first episode, but wait a minute, I was on the first episode,
and I
didn't appear on here until it's the cast of thousands. So I feel you.
It's discrimination. I don't know what you and I have in common that he's discriminating against us with, but we don't go with that.
Yeah.
I forgot Bang was on the first episode. It was you and Jerry.
Yeah, I'm gonna say I didn't get on here until you put me to work. So it is what it is. But we just glad to be here.
Typical black person. Come over here. I got some work for you to do.
We came up with the idea. We fed the idea of doing Hard Knocks Patreon episodes, and these niggas, I gotta do more work.
No, I said I'm down for that.
Well, it was Dante and Mikey.
I'm the only one on East Coast time, so I mean,
and Mikey
be the episodes in.
And Mikey be taking Kyrie PTO, and he didn't want to do it. But anyway, let's just get right into it. Shakeia, I hit you up because it has been since the WNBA season started about a month ago. The discourse, not just on social media, which we know is crazy all the time, or in the words of Bang, fuck Twitter. Don't be arguing people on Twitter. Actually, both of y'all told me stop arguing people with 300 followers, which it's a battle. Today, I beat that battle on my Instagram. People call me my Kyrie. I said we stop treating Kyrie like he beat cancer. So shout out to y'all for my strength. But it's been a lot of wild discourse. I kind of feel hit its peak today at the Death Star of ESPN with Stephen A. Smith and Shannon Sharpe. Now, I watched the clip, but I went and watched the whole full segment, which was about 30 minutes long. And it just really felt like him and Shannon was super defensive and didn't really let Monica McNutt say what she needed to say. To the point where it got a little disrespectful for me, where they were always, speaking over her. And even the part where Shannon was like, well, what does this mean? What does that mean? Like talking to her like she's like 5 years old. And then we got Pat McAfee, which, I don't know. We can't really expect much from Pat McAfee. I think it was more of him calling Caitlin Clark a white bitch, which was more kind of wild, more than what he was saying. White people ain't racist, which is, we don't even have to go into.
Be mindful, this is the second time in 2 weeks.
Second time. He said the same thing last week. So if you look at like the discourse over, I feel like at this point, you got both sides where some are going to the extreme. You got some who think that Caitlin should be treated differently because she's number one pick, which is asinine. This is professional sports. You got some people who want to ignore the race factor in this. You got some people who act like Caitlin is just getting held because she is white, not because she's a great basketball player. But I think at the core of this, and you correct me if I'm wrong, I feel like the WNBA is being fully introduced into the world of sports entertainment where everything is extreme. And like I was telling Bang in the pre-show meeting, in a couple minutes, we're going to be arguing about two 25-year-olds and Luka Doncic and Jason Tatum, whose career is going to be over in 2 weeks. So I feel like everything's extreme, and you got some people who just want it to be, given the proper respect, and some that just feels like it needs to be shown favoritism. What's your personal opinion on everything that's been going on and just how this sport has been covered?
Wow, that's a loaded question. That's a super loaded question.
Yeah, I did do a lot.
There's a lot happening. So I'm going to try to go, I guess, piece by piece. And I think with all of the topics you mentioned, that we have to stop looking at it as sort of a binary. We can't keep looking at it as this is true, so this cannot be true. When in fact, a lot of the things that you mentioned are true. A lot of the things you mentioned are true. For example, just because someone is talking about the league does not mean they're covering the league, right? And that seems to be a really big misconception. Tarika Foster Bradley, who was formerly on ESPN and is now on CBS Sports, she tweeted about this earlier. Her Twitter is at She Knows Sports for anyone who's interested in looking. And she talked about how just having a conversation about the WNBA does not mean you're covering it. And the reason why I mention that is because people like Stephen A. and Shannon and even Pat McAfee, they really believe because they are having these conversations that they are covering the league. That's not true. They are contributing to the discourse more than anything, right? And with that discourse, we have one side who is Caitlin Clark can do no wrong. The current players should be grateful for her existence. She is bringing all of this great stuff into the league. And then on the other side, you have people who've been around for a long time. The WNBA is not a new league. It's not a baby league. It's been around for 27 years, which means it's been around for all of us here a good majority of our lifetimes at this point. And right now, older fans or current fans, or however you want to describe them, longtime fans, dedicated fans, they're pushing back against a lot of the narratives that are coming out from newer people to the space, right? Like newer people are bringing in a lot of negativity, but I am not absolving previous fans of their role in all of the mess too, because all of the fighting, all of the arguing, all of the back and forth, on the one hand, I get it, but also at what point do you get tired? So I think this is an issue of like everybody is way loud. Some people are wrong, some people are right, but we can't really get through because of all the noise. And with Stephen A today, it almost seemed like he was kind of taking credit a little bit. Did anyone else?
In peak Stephen A fashion.
Yeah,
100%.
like almost felt like he was trying to take credit. And I think people are obviously going to take issue with that. I also think we can't paint a league of more than 100 grown women with broad strokes. We can't say what they feel. We can't say what they think. We don't know. We don't know. I would imagine that there is some level of resentment as it pertains to Caitlin Clark. But I can also imagine that that number is probably really small, that there isn't a majority of women in the WNBA who have those feelings, right? But I don't think they're wrong if they do have them. It's more about if you act on them. There's no concerted effort to derail this girl's career. It's just not happening. You've seen people say it over and over again. It's not happening. That's a narrative being pushed by new people, which unfortunately is mostly comprised of men who aren't watching the league at all. Some of these conversations, I'm like, yeah, there's no way this person has watched any games. There's no way. Like this discussion about Caitlin Clark needing the league to go soft on her. Have we never known that the first pick in the draft goes to the worst team? Like,
Right.
I'm not sure like why there's this argument that they should go easier on her because she's new. She's not doing well because her team isn't doing well. And I would say individually, she's kind of getting hers. Against the Liberty, that's a whole nother discussion because I think she scored, 3 points?
Yeah, they put her through a table.
Yeah. But what do we expect in a league with so few teams? There are 12 teams. There are technically 144 spots, but every team is not carrying all that they can because you have issues of cap space, right? So this is a highly competitive league. I'm not sure I would want people to let a person float, to let a person skate, to let someone come in and just get off easy with it. That's not competition. That's also part of the problem with the perception. We think, oh, they're women, they're girls, they should just get along. When in reality, that's not how we operate. That's not how we operate at all. So
that's an insane take.
for any human, we're all people. We're all going to have beef. There's always going to be a little bit of jealousy or an undercurrent of this person is getting something that I should have, or, this new person is getting all the attention. That's always going to be there. It happens in the NBA and no one cares. In fact, I've seen many people call the NBA soft. Now the WNBA is giving you that physicality, those beefs, that trash talk, all of that. And people are like, no. not the girls,
not the women. No,
act
sir.
like ladies.
Yeah.
And I think that's a problem. These are competitors. And Caitlin Clark hasn't said a word about it. So why are people speaking up for her so fiercely?
Yeah. Go ahead, man.
You kind of took the flair of the question that I was about to ask, so I'm going to switch it. It feels like to me that aggression in women's sports is not being tolerated in this. Now, you correct me if I'm wrong, but it feels like to me that the majority of the women that I hear talk about this say, "Hey, just let us play. You're going to get physicality in the game. You're going to the women are aggressive, along with the fundamentals. And yes, we're women, but we're still going to give you that." And it reminds me of one of my favorite movies of all time, A League of Their Own, to where the women wanted just to play baseball, but now you got to wear skirts and you want them to be prissy and all of this stuff. So how does the WNBA as a company really get away or promote the women as just being basketball players, not women basketball players, but basketball players, and really introduce the sport to people who just want to see a quality sport?
I think that's a great question. I think that is an incredible question. I think that's actually what the league is trying to figure out right now, right? Is how do we promote these players as hoopers? These are ballers, right? They're women, absolutely, but they're hoopers. And they play such a pure, under the basket game that it would be in the league's best interest for the promotion to be of the game. I've seen so many men who I have known for years who have never watched the WNBA. And keep in mind, the WNBA started in 1997. So that's a long time for grown men to have never watched a sport.
Right.
And the reason why they don't watch the sport is because it's women. It has absolutely nothing to do with the play on the court. And I think that is key, is we need to make the conversations be about basketball. But that's really, really hard right now. It's super hard in this current climate. You have what did Pat McAfee call Caitlin Clark? A cash cow. Right. So everyone is focused on the money. Everyone is focused on the brand deals. Everyone is focused on the exposure. All of these conversations we're having are not about basketball. And I think that is what the league needs to get back to. But how? I really couldn't tell you. And I don't think they know themselves. I've written a few columns about this. I feel at least, again, my perspective, I can't speak for anyone else, that this got ahead of the W. They really weren't ready for what was coming. Anyone who's been watching, I've been at the Tribune for, it'll be 2 years next month. And so I've been covering Caitlin Clark and the WNBA and everything happening around women's basketball as a part of my job for the last 2 years. I was in Dallas for the Women's Final Four last year. So I saw this kind of percolating. I saw this coming, and I don't think the league was ready. I don't think they were ready, not from a PR perspective, not from a television perspective, not from a streaming perspective. So we're looking at a league who got everything they wanted faster than they expected, and they don't know what to do with it. Right now, all you can do is say, pay attention to the hoop, but all the other stories are just going to drown it out.
No, yeah, definitely. My question is twofold. It's a little more positive, but real quick, just talk about how the city has really embraced Angel Reese and the fact that, even though Cardozo was picked first, Angel Reese has really been, the superstar. She's the one that, we know when the W didn't stream their first preseason game, you had I forgot the number, but it was a lot of people just watching on the Instagram stream, just the way she attracts people and the way that the city has really embraced Angel. What has that been like actually being in the city?
It's actually been really cool. It's been really cool. The thing about, I think, the situation with Angel Reese and the Chicago Sky is the situation was great for both sides. She is in a place that would embrace that dog mentality, that would embrace that I'm a baddie and a hooper, right? Like Chicagoans have this special, and I mean that in a positive way, y'all, this special way of just saying, this is who I am, right? This is who I am. You're going to like it or I don't care. And I think she embraces that hard body, blue collar Chicago mentality of we go to work and we look fly and we do it all at the same time. It's an incredible thing to watch. But not only that is I feel, with the exception of Candace Parker, the Sky didn't have a star. I think having a star to cling to, having a star creates culture around the team. Having a star creates, an environment fans want to be a part of. And so I think she's perfect for where she is. And to take your question a step further, if you don't mind, I think we're kind of in like a young Black star in Chicago moment right now. And I think it's going to have a great impact, not just economically, but socially, because I'm not going to lie, y'all, I got invited to a Sky watch party and I was like, word? We doing Sky
We doing
watch
that now?
parties? We doing rooftop parties for the Sky? So I think what they're bringing, Angel and Caleb Williams and Rome and right, like you're just getting this young energy in the city. And like, who doesn't like young fly Black kids? Like that's truly what it is. They bring in money, they bring in eyes. I also think with Angel, because of the supposed magic bird rivalry everyone is trying to create with her and Caitlyn, people miss that she was already a star. She didn't really need that rivalry. She didn't really need that moment of like shit talking to elevate her. She was already on the way. This girl she looks like a model. She's done everything big. Is that not the Chicago way? She's doing everything big.
And she embraces it too.
And
Like,
she embraces it.
And the city embraces her.
Role.
Yeah. And I even seen like even something as small as popping up to the concerts. Like G Herbo was like, yo, bring her backstage, and just like the support that they're getting already. Like the first game, of course, Dwayne Wade owns the team. They should have spelled his name right. As my mom always says, though, that's not how you spell Dwayne. But anyway, Dwayne. Well, yeah. So Dwayne Wade, like you said, Caleb and Rome, Keenan Allen coming out and showing love. I feel like when it comes to certain athletes that kind of just like embody a city, I know of a city, maybe New York, that would have embraced her the way that Chicago does.
There's a benefit to being in the third largest market in the country. I don't think people want to talk about it. We are the not New York, not LA, still a big city, still a good time, flights everywhere, access to everything. Like she couldn't pop in and out of a lot of these WNBA cities the way she can Chicago, right? Like having these direct flights everywhere. Simone Biles talked about it when, I don't have a connecting flight anymore.
I'll have to drive to Milwaukee.
It's a big deal when you're young and being in a metro area. I also think what Angel brings to the Sky is a show of sisterhood, right? We've seen so much transition on that team. We've seen the last two players from the championship team are Diamond DeShields and Dana Evans. And Diamond DeShields is, not from Chicago, though, her family has ties here through baseball. And then Dana Evans is from Gary, which is as close as you can get to being from Chicago on that team. But somehow Angel, someone from Baltimore, came in and is taking the team with her everywhere. So that's also someone who's using their stardom as a platform for others. And I think that's huge. It's getting overlooked and people calling her this, that, and the third. But come on, she had half the team at the Meg Thee Stallion concert on stage while wearing a Barack Obama t-shirt. Like that's just embracing the city.
Yeah. And even when you talk about embracing the city, and then Bang got one question for you, and I got one non-WNBA question for you. Even when it comes to people like who they embrace Chicago, I can get like, I just rewatched Kevin Garnett's documentary. KG was here for 1 year, and like sometimes I think he was here for a decade. Just the way he embraced the city, the way the city embraces him. It's like some people it just meshes right away. And I think that's what hers has kind of been so seamless. Like I think even when she tweeted something is where can I get my hair done? Or can I get my nails done? People was hitting up with with recommendations and stuff. The 5-star Barbie had the West Side niggas real hype. I was like, no, we got to get them from out west real quick.
Whoa.
Had to let that one go. Had to cut that.
We had to let that one go.
Y'all can't have everything, fam.
I have a couple thoughts. First of all, shouts to the West Side. My cousins live out west. Shouts to the West Side. Second, I would like to fight whoever recommended my nail tech to Angel Reese. Like, because she reposted something from my nail tech on TikTok. And I was like, oh, wait a minute now. Like, love my nail tech, Jayana. Love you. And I want her to get all the business. But if it start affecting my appointments, I'm going to have a problem with everybody.
I'm going to have an issue with that.
Hey, celebrity nail tech, right? Nail tech to celebrity nail tech.
But the thing about Chicago embracing you, I think I can speak to that on a personal level. I'm not from here. I went to college here. I work here. And yeah, I write about Chicago sports culture. And something I hear on a regular basis is people being like, you really captured the voice of the city. You really have this way of getting through to the voice of the city. And I think part of that is I'm Midwestern, right? We all have that intrinsic Midwesternness about us. But the city has embraced me so much that I now have to correct people and say that I'm not from here. Like, I got introduced for something and they were like, this is Shake, Southside Zone. Whoa, I've never even lived off the North Side. Like, what are we doing? It's wild that the city embraces people, but there's a certain something, there's a certain quality you have to have. There's a certain authenticity, blah, blah, blah. Authenticity that you have to have for people to want to mess with you here. People in Chicago like real, whatever that means. It doesn't mean that you're out here projecting some image. You may make a mistake. You got to own that mistake. Like, I think that's what I love about here. And that's what people have embraced about me. I don't claim to know everything. I let the city speak. And I try to be the person documenting and transcribing instead of speaking for everyone.
Amen. And we appreciate that. Now, speaking of coverage, though, I think that today was important for many different reasons when it comes to, the talk around the WNBA. And it's not just about the coverage or the conversation, heated conversation between Stephen A. Smith, Shannon Sharp, and Monica McNutt. But it was also Pat McAfee. And we mentioned that briefly a little bit, that Pat McAfee, I think that Pat McAfee meant no ill will. I've heard many of white people use that term. I had an ex-girlfriend who used that term, and I said, don't use that term loosely around us.
Are we talking about the B word?
Yes.
Okay.
And I know that some can use that term loosely, and if you watch the whole segment, it definitely meant well, but I felt uncomfortable just off of the fact of the terminology that he used. And I don't think, especially in this setting, you should be using that term. But it also brings a bigger concern to me about the way that the league is covered by men in general. So, like, do you share that concern? Because outside of like the post-game, the pre-game, post-game, halftime show, which has been getting a lot of love lately, with college basketball and now WNBA, you still have men when it comes to the television coverage. Like, so what are your thoughts around that? And do you have any concerns about men covering the sport that they might just don't necessarily watch like that?
I have a couple of thoughts. First, I want to start with language is important, right? The way we speak, the way we write about things, about others, about sensitive issues, it all matters. And I think where Pat McAfee kind of toes the line is in his I'm not a journalist thing, right? Like, he's not a journalist, so he's not held to the same standards that say I am. However, he should be to a certain degree. I think when you're in a media space, the way we speak about people no matter what our role is, it's important. Whether you're an influencer, a journalist, a content creator, we just don't call people the B word, whether it's affectionate or not. I watch that and I watch for context, and I agree with you in that I don't think he meant it to be derogatory, but the B word in and of itself is seen as a derogatory term, specifically when you're referring to a woman. I wouldn't do it. You just don't do it. I've used the word socially, you know, I might be like, oh, I'm being such a B word, but you better not call me that. And I think that's kind of the cultural difference that you were bringing up when you're like, don't say that around us, because for us, and by us, I mean Black people, we don't really play with it like that. You have to know somebody, you have to be close, and that's something for a private conversation, a personal conversation, or a personal connection. Now, as far as men covering the WNBA, I don't really have a problem with it, only because, I mean, look at the makeup of sports journalists, period, right?
Yeah.
There's such a small percentage of them who are women. And then there's an even smaller percentage of them who are Black. And then an even smaller percentage of them who are Black women. So I don't really on its face have a problem with men covering the league, but I would ask that men be a little more sincere in their coverage or their conversations, that they actively watch. And I don't mean just watch when the Fever or on ESPN. I mean, you're going to have to get that WNBA League Pass subscription, grind it out like the rest of us, figure out where the game is, what time it's on, when to watch it. I think talking about hoop is for everybody. I don't really have a problem with that. Man, woman, whatever. If you're talking about hoop, let's talk about hoop.
That paper on this player, haters, old news, money on the other line, so I'm not gonna hold you. Money on the other line, so I'm not